Attenuators. What's the best one for you? Welcome to episode number 10 of Ask RGD. If this is your first time viewing an episode of Ask RGD, the rules here are very, very simple. You ask me a guitar or guitar-related question, and I answer it for you here in a video. This week's question comes from Nightmare1690. Nightmare with a K, by the way. Well, Mr. Nightmare 1690, I guess you could be a Mrs. Nightmare 1690 for all I know, asks this question. He or she says, what are some things to watch for when buying an attenuator? Can you buy a wrong one that would damage the amp? Not wrong as in wrong brand. So, in other words, how to shop for an attenuator. Can you buy the wrong one? Let's start there. Yes, you can. And here's a few things that you want to watch out for when you're buying an attenuator. If you have an attenuator that seems to come in a couple of different options, usually attenuators will come in, different options. The difference between each one being, different versions of the same model, rather, being they'll come in 4, 8, or 16 ohm. In other words, how much, what the load is that it is designed to handle. So, I have a couple of them that I use here, and I'm going to start with, we'll start with this one. This is a model this is one from a company called Carl's Custom Guitars, and this is, these used to be available on Amazon, for 40 or 50 bucks. Now I think they're only available on Reverb. I think the company's still in business anyway. A viewer told me that he purchased one not too long ago and was actually very happy with it. But long story short, this one here is a passive attenuator, and you got this one knob, and there's really not much. There's not much on the inside of it. It is designed to. What an attenuator is designed to do is go between the amplifier and the speaker. So if you're plugging a head, an amp head into a speaker cab, you're going to need two speaker cables. One will go from the amp head to the input of the attenuator. The other one is going to go from the output of the attenuator into the input of the speaker cabinet. So very similar to how you would hook up a pedal. More attenuation will give you less volume. Less attenuation will give you more volume. Basically, what it is doing is the electric load being created, the power load, rather, being created by the amplifier is normally all absorbed by your speaker cabinet. And the more you turn up the volume of the amp, obviously the louder the load gets, the speaker, your speakers are absorbing all of it. What an attenuator is doing is, basically you are telling the attenuator to absorb part of that load, which will essentially cut down on the volume level of the amplifier. Why do people do this? Because they want to be able to crank up the volume, particularly in tube amplifiers. They want to be able to crank up the volume a little bit more to get that, that full, more of that warm tube tone, get the tubes cooking real good, but not necessarily have the neighbors calling the police on them for playing way too loudly. That's why an attenuator is very handy. So, when you're shopping for an attenuator, first thing you are going to want to make sure of is, number one, that you are buying one that is the proper resistance. So, in other words, if you are running out of your 8 ohm speaker output on your head into your 8 ohm cabinet, you do not want a 16 ohm attenuator in between the two. No bueno, you're going to blow something up if you do. Most likely it's going to be your head. Now, this one here is a passive attenuator, and I haven't used this one in a while, but when I was using it pretty regularly, I actually kept it, fairly well attenuated, about 50 to 60%, and I like the tone. When you do crank them up, you do begin to give up, some of your guitar tone compared to what it would be without any attenuation between the head and the cab. So, very, very few attenuators are not going to provide you with that problem. So there is going to be some tonal sacrifice, but in a lot of instances, you might even like the sound of it better. So try them and see what you like. Attenuators that I am aware of that are designed to not allow that to happen are going to be the higher end models, the Universal Audio aux box and the Boss Wazacraft tube amp expander that just recently came out that has the entire guitar world abuzz, and one that I would really like to have because that thing does a lot more than just attenuation. Another story for another time. There is also Sir Amps also has a couple of really good models that are probably worth checking out. So check your resistance, folks. The other thing that you want to be aware of is most attenuators are rated to attenuate amplifiers up to a certain wattage. Most of them are going to be, either 50 or 100 watts. I haven't run across too many of them out there anyway that are rated much below 50 watts. However, if you are trying to tame down the volume of a 100 watt all tube amplifier, make sure you're buying an attenuator that is rated to attenuate 100 watts. A 50 watt attenuator is not going to work real well and is going to severely overwork the attenuator, and again, quite possibly blow something up. I grabbed my Cook dummy box here as a second example, and this is really not an attenuator. There is a larger version of this model that also does have an attenuator in it. This one, however, is simply a load box, and what that means is I can plug an amp directly into it and not have to worry about a speaker cabinet. This will absorb all of the load, and then I can run an output straight into my interface and essentially record silently. So a load box is also, if that is a feature that is also attractive to you, that's something else that you might want to keep in mind. Maybe look for a model that will do both. This particular one, without the attenuator, I want to say this particular model costs about $160 or something like that. Not very expensive at all. But this one, it does have some speaker emulation on it, as a lot of them do. The speaker emulation that you do find on models like this one are going to vary in quality. A lot of them are not going to have a whole lot of tweakability. Basically they're just designed to sound like you're playing into a speaker cabinet of some kind. If you're looking for versatility in emulation, bypass the speaker emulation and use something else. Use a cab sim pedal or an impulse response of some kind, and get the rest of the tone that you need that way. However, again, very handy device. So if you're looking for something for some silent recording, you might want to also look into a load box. If you do want to look into something like this that also has an attenuator built into it, I want to say the larger model that I mentioned earlier that does have attenuation options on it runs about $349 if memory serves. I think that's actually right. I've mentioned a couple other options out there that are on the market today, particularly the Boss Wazacraft tube amp expander, the Universal Audio stuff, the aux box, that is, the Sir load boxes and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff out there across all different types of price points. If you're trying to get into something a little more inexpensive, I probably would suggest you check out the Weber stuff. I'll see if I can't link them down below. They've been making attenuators for a long time, and they're fantastic for all different types of amplifiers. So definitely check those out. Let's see. Bad Cat has a popular one on the market. Of course, the hot plates I imagine, are probably still out there. They've been popular for a very long time. And then of course there is also the all popular, what a lot of people call the poor man's attenuator, which is stick a volume pedal in your effects loop. You'd be surprised. That will tone it down quite a bit. Again, you're going to give up some of your amp's overall tone. But if you just want to control volume, particularly for bedroom practice levels, it absolutely will work. One final point in an answer to your question. Attenuators are primarily used on tube amps. One of the advantages to solid-state amplifiers is they are designed to maintain their tone, particularly even at lower volume levels. So in the instance of your solid-state amps, probably not really going to need it because you can control the volume on the amplifier itself. So, in a nutshell, when you were shopping for an attenuator, make sure you are buying one that is the right resistance for your amplifier. Make sure you're buying one that is rated at the right wattage of your amplifier. And also make sure it has any additional features that you might be looking for. So, thank you very much once again for submitting your question. I hope this has helped, and anybody else out there that may have been wondering the same thing. You can submit your questions as well. You can do so by dropping them down in the comments section here of this video or any other video on this channel for that matter. You can also submit them to me privately via email, via Facebook Messenger, or via the contact form on the Robert's Guitar Dungeon website. All of those links are also placed down in the description. I will post links to all the gear discussed in the description box for you to check out as well. And last but not least, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.